Amen. Good morning. Happy Advent. My name is Stephen. I'm on the teaching team here at Christ Church of Flagstaff. And I just want to mention, connected to what Joy just said, I'm also a campus minister with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. So when Joy was just talking about the generosity of the church going to not only within the church, but out to local missions and local organizations, that's me. And that's my wife, Jessica. Like, it's not nameless organizations that we give that 20% out to. It's people. And it's, for me, in my case, it's the students that we serve. Your generosity directly influences the witness on campuses in the state. Over 50 students just this semester through InterVarsity have made decisions to follow Jesus. Yeah, you can woo about that. It's amazing. And I know we've done a lot of baptism stuff this morning, but I have to show you these pictures. Last month in November, the NAU chapter went down to Grasshopper Point, and it was frigid. Haley mentioned it, it's a nice heated baptism, not at Grasshopper Point. So this is Christian getting baptized. This is Tennyson in the middle, and her these are all freshman women. That's Sage and Maddie. They all got baptized that day. I mean, come on. It's pretty fun, right? You're giving your generosity, not just the church, but also families and individuals that I see right now. I can't look at them. Give to us personally, and it makes this possible. It helps us be on campus so that students can make decisions for Jesus, be discipled, and move on to be world changers for him. So thank you for making this possible. Okay, last time I was up here, last month, I made you a promise to tell you a story. I don't know if you remember this, but I was preaching on Adam, right, as a part of our Jesus in the Old Testament series. And I was talking about the original intention of God on the earth, so light stuff, right? The original intention of God on the earth and in us was and is this perfect existence of connection with one another and intimacy with God and perfect peace, I mentioned. And then I asked you, when is the last time you felt that way? When is the last time you felt not only a little peaceful, but perfect peace and connection to God? I told you that the last time I can remember that was a long time ago in my life, and that I would tell you that story later. And so that's today. The last time I remember feeling at perfect peace was Christmas 1988. I was 10. And my life in general was not peaceful, I would say. So I was a missionary kid in 1988. Living with my family in a different country. We lived in Vienna, Austria. And I was, at 10 years old, navigating a culture that wasn't mine. Trying to learn a language that wasn't mine. Trying to learn that language just enough so that maybe I could make a couple friends at the Austrian school I was going to. Or, at the very least, learn enough to disappear so that the bullies wouldn't automatically go right to me. The work my dad was doing as a missionary was in Eastern Europe at the height of communism in the 80s. And it was dangerous, and I remember feeling that. I remember feeling fear about that, even at 10. We lived, our family of 6, in a tiny, I'm not kidding, tiny 2-bedroom apartment above a church. And earlier in the month of December, my parents prepped us, kids. We were only going to get one present each that Christmas. For a 10-year-old, at least for this 10-year-old, whose love language is gift giving and receiving, that was hard on me. And life didn't feel peaceful. And yet, when I asked that question last time I preached, when's the last moment you felt perfect peace? And I considered that for myself. I kept coming back to that Christmas, 1988. My family crowded into a minuscule living room. Simple decorations. For some reason, I remember these red candles in the window. I don't know if anyone else who grew up in the 80s remembers these. You plugged them in, and they were electric, like a little bulb. I just remember those. A small little tree, 6 presents underneath, one for each of us, singing some songs together. I'm so glad we just sang O Come, Emmanuel, because that's one of them that I remember singing together with my family. A moment of peace in the storm. That was my little 10-year-old life. So when I think of Christmas peace, and that's where we are this morning in Advent, that moment comes back to me not because everything in the world was peaceful. Eastern Europe in the 80s, no way. Not because everything in my family was peaceful. You try living in 600 square feet with 6 people. We each got 100, right, to find our peace in. Not because everything inside me was peaceful. No way. It was because peace himself was there. I've been thinking a lot about how we've chosen to enter into Advent this year at Christ Church of Flagstaff. Chris introduced it last week through the eyes of a child. Peace this morning through the eyes of a child. And that can sound idyllic, but as I thought back on that moment and that year, 1988, I thought childhood isn't always peaceful, right? Childhood isn't always calm and anxiety-free. Some of us had pretty unpeaceful, hectic, chaotic childhoods. Mine was marked by pretty constant change and moving. Often I would feel out of place and different wherever I was. Even if I wasn't being bullied, which I often was, I felt fearful as a kid. Yours may have been similar, your childhood. Maybe it was marked or marred by other things. So how was I able to find peace in that moment, in that time? How am I able to find it now, in this time, when I have all sorts of other barriers to experiencing peace? My hope this morning for you and for me, for us, is that we would be able to look past, not past our circumstances. I don't want to glance past them this morning. My hope is that we can look through them to see peace himself. Find the one who is peace himself. I hope to do that by bringing us into the book of Isaiah this morning a little deeper. You heard Dennis reading it just now as the candle was lit. I want to take a look at the way peace himself was promised to a people who needed that desperately and consider how that person is promised to us today. And then toward the end of our time, we're going to jump forward to the book of John so we can leave this morning with the words of that promised person ringing in our ears. Okay? You ready? Let's start with Isaiah. Let's talk about Isaiah, the book that we just heard Dennis reading from. When the book of Isaiah was written almost 3,000 years ago, its original audience, Israel, the people of Israel, they were living in a time that did not feel peaceful. Confusion and uncertainty and suspicion of one another, fear, political instability, those were things that defined that moment in history then. That people. But I wonder if it sounded familiar to you when I was saying those words. I wonder if it feels a little bit like, oh, was he describing then or was he describing now? I've been thinking a lot about this time, and I've been listening to some people talking about it online and some sermons, and some people that I was listening to were saying it's worse now than it is then. I'm not so sure about that. I don't know if it's worse now, but I wonder if you could hear some similarities when I described that time. Okay. So into this chaos that we're talking about of 2,700 years ago, a preacher enters the scene, a prophet. A prophet is a preacher with a direct line to God. Sometimes prophets in the Old Testament actually spoke with the actual voice of God. And this prophet's name was Isaiah. And in chapter 9 of Isaiah's book of prophecy, he says this. You heard it already this morning. For to us a child is born. You could read that. For into all this a child was born. For to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. This is a foretelling, it's a promise, it's a prophecy that Isaiah is making. And I want you to notice something about it. I want you to notice that the promise that comes to this people is not a promise of a thing. Isaiah doesn't say, wonder is coming. Some vague wonder is coming. Or your life's about to be wonderful. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say power is coming, some vague idea of power. Or that you will be powerful. He doesn't say that. He also doesn't promise some vague idea of peace. He doesn't say, I know life is hard, but that will stop. Those things will go away, and you will experience peace. Isaiah here, speaking to a war-torn, exhausted, persecuted, at their wits' end people, does not say something is coming. He's promising them someone, a person, not wonder, a wonderful counselor, not power, a mighty God, not stuff that will last longer, an everlasting Father. He's not promising them peace either. He's promising them a prince of peace. Peace did not come to my 10-year-old self that Christmas as some vague concept, one that I could muster up, like, come on, man, feel peace. Stop feeling anxious, me, right? That's how sometimes we feel like we're supposed to do it. That didn't work when I was 10. It was different than that when we were crowded into our living room with the world raging all around us and everything we carried in, pressing harder in. It wasn't a thing. Peace that shifted things. It was the Prince of Peace, welcomed into that room by my family. That changed the atmosphere. I couldn't have forced it to happen then any more than I can force it to happen now. Can I be transparent with you for just a bit? This Christmas 2025, this time in my life does not feel peaceful. I love my job. It's a beautiful job. It's a wonderful job. Campus ministry with students within InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. But right now it feels anything but peaceful. This is an Urbana year. I don't know if some of you might know what this means. Urbana is a historic global missions conference. It's been happening for 70 years. Some hundreds of thousands of missionaries on the field say Urbana had something to do with my calling. It's an important, massive conference. And this year, it's in my backyard. Finally, they put it somewhere warm in December. We have been in St. Louis and in Chicago and in Illinois. It's like, oh yeah, it's warm places. So it's in Phoenix, and I have a high leadership role there. Thousands of students, there they are, 6,000. My leadership role at Urbana is directing small group Bible studies at this conference. 500 of them. Something that's on my to-do list this week is to figure out how to get 6,000 students from one room, where they're all together, into another room where there are 500 student-led small groups waiting to be filled. Have you ever tried to get 10 college students from one room to the other in a half an hour? That's what I have to do. That's on my to-do list. You guys need to pray for me. This is an important, weighty, complex, beautiful job, and peace feels about 100 miles away from it right now. Some of you feel similar. You are thankful for your job. Some of you love your job, but it ramps up this time of year, and it does not feel peaceful. At the same time, I'm feeling far from peace in my body. Told you I was going to get transparent. For 2 years, I have been dealing with chronic nerve issues in my leg. I cannot feel this right now because I'm so hopped up on gabapentin right now. I should probably not be telling you what drugs I'm on currently. But when I'm not, it's searing, burning pain. And I've been dealing with it for 2 years. Until I can get into surgery, and y'all know about that, how hard sometimes it is to get into the right surgeon. Some of you are feeling this too. You have pain in your life right now. Maybe it's in your body. Maybe you are dealing with emotional pain or mental pain. And it does not feel peaceful this Christmas. And on top of all that, loss. Last New Year's, my wife Jessica and I were up here and we led the New Year's services. And if you remember anything about that, you probably remember this story that she told about her dad taking her out into the north woods of Wisconsin when she was a girl to teach her how to hunt and to teach her how to be still and to teach her how to listen. I don't remember if she told this part, but he was like, you can't move for 2 hours. You can move your eyeballs, but that's it. And so they would sit in peace and she would move her eyeballs. She told about how she walked literally in his footsteps in the snow. And she encouraged us who were there to do the same. Wayne died last week on Thanksgiving night. And our family heads on an unplanned trip to Wisconsin next weekend. Jessica and I will officiate the funeral. Hundreds of details it feels like we have to deal with while we are grieving and dealing with the loss along the way. I know that my family and I are not the only ones who are dealing with loss this Christmas. Maybe you're dealing with it this Christmas, or maybe Christmas brings it up. And it does not feel peaceful. Sometimes I wonder, y'all, have I had a peaceful Christmas since I was 10? Have you? And still, there is this promise from Isaiah. A promise for the displaced Israelites in 700 BC, a promise for me as a 10-year-old, and a promise for me this morning when I woke up. A promise he makes to each of you as we're gathered together in this room. This promised Prince of Peace. The Hebrew word that Isaiah uses here that we have translated into peace is shalom. And I love this word because peace doesn't even come close to what this word actually is. See, our English word peace actually can describe the absence of trouble or conflict or tension or anxiety or sorrow. Like when a war ends, it's peaceful, right? We separate the two. That's not what shalom means. Shalom means peace inside war. Shalom means peace, not God rescuing me out of something, but God rescuing me in it. Okay, that's pretty sweet, and peace doesn't even get close to it. It actually most accurately means the presence of God filling the gaps of everything that's empty in us and around us. God making all things whole. All those ways I'm feeling and experiencing the world right now, all the ways you are, shalom means they don't have to go away for you to experience peace. It can happen at the same time. Peace in war, peace in the storm. Shalom fills in those empty spaces that are incomplete. And Isaiah doesn't stop there. I'm going to geek out a little bit here on language stuff. In Isaiah 26, he says, he will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are stayed on him because they trust in him. Perfect peace in the Hebrew is shalom, shalom. We don't double words like that in English. It would be translated, he will keep us in peace, peace. Or, he will keep us in peace-filled peace. It's this layered, complete, doubled peace. Not shalom. Shalom, shalom. And once again, Isaiah doesn't leave that concept hanging out there in the open as a thing. Instead, he connects it to a person. He will keep us there. Those whose minds are stayed on him because they trust in him. Stayed on means fixed or leaned against. That's my favorite one. Or held by or anchored to. Peace is not found by controlling the world around us. And isn't that how we most often try to wrestle peace in our lives? If I could just get a hold of this one thing, if just this one thing would go away, if that person would say this one thing to me or not say it, then I would have peace. But that's not what it is. Peace is in control. I can't control almost anything. I can't control, my busy schedule feels out of control. The pain in my body, I can numb it, but it comes back. The fact that we lost a very important person to us to cancer, I can't bring anyone back to life. The economy, the political moment we're in, what people say behind my back, I might as well try to control the weather. I sometimes wonder if my 47-year-old self has any more control over my life than my 10-year-old self did. But one of the things that I can control is who my mind is stayed on, who I'm leaning against, who I choose to be held by, who I anchor myself to. And Isaiah is giving me a beautiful option here, and he's giving you that option too, to stay ourselves on the Prince of Peace, Prince of peaceful peace. That person, and you know what time it is in my sermon now, I love this. I get to talk about Jesus. That person is Jesus. We know that now. Jesus, who this entire season is knit around. Jesus, who angels announced. And Jesus, who stars shifted their positions to lead people to him. Jesus, whose birth is a miracle, not only because a virgin gave birth to him, but because he came, he was birthed, and he was a fulfillment of the longing of thousands of years before him and thousands of years after him. That Jesus, the Jesus who said this, "Peace I leave you." And guess what word he used there? "My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives." Jesus speaks these words on the night before he went to the cross. Not exactly the most peaceful moment in his life, right? Maybe the moment he had least control over what was about to happen. And isn't it good to know that he knows what it feels like? And into all that chaos, into it, he promises shalom. He offers it to his disciples. Shalom, shalom. He does not say, guess what? I don't have to go to the cross tomorrow. I fixed it. He goes to the cross the next day. Not absence of conflict. That's not what he's offering here. Not absence of tension or anxiety or sorrow. They were going to experience it, and so will we. His peace, he says. And he says, I don't give it to you as the world gives. I think the reason that he's saying that is because he gets how the world works. They misinterpret it. We, not they. We misinterpret it. We give it wrong and we take it wrong and we expect it wrong. I think he says it this way because he knows something about the world then and about the world now. We try to secure peace through escape or control or denial or numbing. And Jesus gives peace through a person, himself, through proximity to and intimacy with his self. And it's a gift, he makes sure to say. I give you. Because he also wants us to know you can't force it. We can only receive it from peace himself. And so we're going to try that this morning. We're going to practice it a little bit as we take communion. And so you got your elements. I just want you to hold that in your hand. Now, I know that I've said several times that you can't force this. You can't force peace into your life or into your situation. But I still think we can position ourselves to receive it. That's kind of why I like the lean on the most, because it's like it's a physical position I'm taking, leaning on. I think we can take that position. I think back to myself in Christmas 1988 when my parents told me I was going to get one gift. There was a couple positions I could have taken at that moment. If I was a real brat, I could have said, one. If it's not 37, I don't want any. Right? But I didn't, because I knew, even at 10, that what my parents were doing was an act of sacrificial generosity toward us kids. They probably couldn't have even afforded those. And so I received it that way, with gratefulness and openness. And I got a Back to the Future poster for my wall. It was like one of the best presents I've ever gotten in my life. Maybe because there was only one. I don't know. I can't tell you for sure. We're going to do that. I want to invite you into that position now as we take communion. Gratefulness and openness for the gift of peace. And so what I want you to do is I want you to start opening that bread, and I want you to hold it in your hand as I just go back here to the Isaiah 26, that he will keep us in perfect peace. This part, those whose minds are stayed on him. I want to practice, before we take the bread, staying our minds on him. And I'm going to give us a minute, and I'm talking about an actual minute, 60 seconds to do this. Now, this time of year, when I try to focus and be quiet, it usually lasts about 10 seconds, right? Because my mind wanders and everything, boom, presses in. I'm going to invite us to do that. Try it for a full minute of silence to practice staying our minds on him, to consider Jesus for a moment and the good things that he has done in our lives. And here's some advice before we do this. Give yourself a break. If your mind wanders, don't get down on yourself over that and waste the minute feeling guilty and shameful. Just notice it. Give yourself some grace, and instead of doing that, thank God for something small as a way to redirect your mind, your drifting mind, re-anchor it to him. It may be helpful for you to do something physical, like just feel the bread between your fingers as a way to redirect and stay your mind on him. Or maybe with your other hand, sometimes I do this, I just kind of lightly grip. Stay my mind now on you, Jesus. Let's take 60 seconds, and I just want to offer you this gift of staying your mind on the Prince of Peace. Close your eyes if that helps. Let's take 60 seconds. How many people did that feel long? Okay. Yeah, sometimes it does feel long. Sometimes it takes me a couple minutes. Once I'm into it, it's never long enough. When Jesus was with his disciples, he took a piece of bread and he said, whenever you're together, remember my body broken for you. Stay your mind on me and remember. And eat together. Can we eat this together? Take the cup. Don't open it maybe yet, because I'm going to give you another minute. And I don't want you to worry about spilling. And here I want to think about the gift. And I want to give you this gift of 1 minute of not striving, but instead of receiving. We are so used to working for it and earning it and valuing ourselves based on how much we have worked or earned. And Jesus is like, I'm giving it to you. It's not how gifts work. And so for 60 seconds, I just want you to release, if you can, the attitude of trying to earn his love or earn his peace, and just receive it instead. Here's a couple things you can do. Maybe as you close your eyes during this 60 seconds, just pray a simple prayer. Jesus, I receive the gift of shalom. And just say that over and over again. And don't try to earn it. Jesus, I receive the gift of shalom. I like a breath prayer. I will breathe in and say to him, Jesus, as I breathe in, and out, I will say, I receive you. Can we just try that? Breathe in, and in your mind, just say to him, Jesus, breathing in, and breathe out, I receive you. Let's take 60 seconds and just receive the gift of peace. After they ate the bread that night, Jesus took a cup and he said, whenever you drink this, remember my blood poured out for you for the forgiveness of sins. Stay your mind on this. Let's drink together. Will you stand with me? We're going to do one more thing together. We're going to sing a song of worship. God will keep in perfect peace, in shalom, shalom, in peaceful peace, those whose minds are stayed on him because they trust in him. We're going to sing Trust in God to end our morning. And I wonder if you could just practice trusting him for the next 4 minutes. What is it in your life that you need to trust God with this season? Maybe it's one of those things I listed and you related to it. Maybe it's something completely different. How do you need to say, Prince of Peace, Prince of peaceful peace, Prince of shalom, shalom? I've been trying to fix this. I trust you with it. Let's sing together.